Sí. ¿Cómo están? Espero que estén muy bien. Buenas tardes. Muchas gracias por asistir a esta ya nuestra quinta sesión de este curso intensivo en línea de becas de posgrados en Estados Unidos. Mi nombre es Mabel Martínez y junto con mi compañera Stephanie y Denise estamos organizando este bonito taller de becas para personas que quieran aplicar un posgrado y no sepan cómo comenzar o tener una idea o estrategia de cómo comenzar su proceso o solicitar becas para este proceso, ¿vale? Entonces, rapidito, súper rapidito, Denise, me ayudas con la siguiente, por favor. Recuerden que estos son los requisitos para solicitar un posgrado. Estos son los requisitos generales para solicitar un posgrado de manera general. Obviamente puede haber alguna particularidad dependiendo del área de estudio y del nivel, pero en general estos son los requisitos para solicitar un posgrado. Muchas veces o en la mayoría de las veces, las becas van a tener requisitos iguales o similares a los que se usan para solicitar un posgrado. Entonces, nada más se los quiero recordar para que lo tengan ahí en mente, sobre todo para los que se conectan en esta sesión. ¿Qué es Education USA? Nuevamente, esta vez no lo voy a decir yo, esta vez quiero que me ayude alguien. ¿Quién me quiere ayudar a decir qué es Education USA para ver si en estas 4 sesiones hemos hecho un buen trabajo explicando qué es Education USA? Yo veo a Nancy con ganas de participar.
Hola, tardes. Ah, bueno, a
Hola.
ver, lo voy a intentar. ¿Qué es Education USA? Es la red del Departamento de Estado de los Estados Unidos con más de 400 centros de asesoría a nivel mundial. Education USA promueve activamente la educación superior en los Estados Unidos, ofreciendo información precisa, completa y actualizada. En México tienen varias oficinas a lo largo de todo el país. Stephanie es eh, la encargada aquí de Querétaro. Ya tuve el gusto de conocerla. Y bueno, hay algunos estados que no tienen como tal una oficina, pero Mabel se encarga de varios estados, creo que son como 4, pero no recuerdo ahorita cuáles son, y así sucesivamente. Y pueden buscar a su asesor de su estado o el que se encarga de su estado para pues más información y también ofrecen asesorías uno a uno y bueno, hasta ahí.
Muy bien, Nancy, muchísimas gracias. Sí, en efecto, eso es lo que hacemos. Tal como dijo Nancy, somos las personas que los pueden acompañar en el proceso para estudiar en Estados Unidos. Somos un programa del gobierno de los Estados Unidos y todo lo que hacemos es totalmente gratuito. Y así como Nancy tuvo una asesoría con Stephanie, yo hoy tuve una con Erika. Cada uno de ustedes puede agendar su asesoría su asesoría con su asesor o asesora más cercana. Y Stephanie, si me ayudas perdón, Denise, si me ayudas con la otra, ahí van a aparecer, esto ya lo dijimos, así que nos la vamos a saltar. Ahí van a aparecer todas las oficinas que tenemos que mencionaba Nancy. Y si quieren encontrar a su asesor o asesora más cercano, tienen que escanear, Denise, la siguiente, por favor. eh, Ese código con ese bonito dinosaurio para que puedan encontrar a su asesor o asesora más cercana, ¿vale? Entonces, pues nuevamente muchísimas gracias por estar aquí. Em, la siguiente, Denise, por favor. Recuerden que nosotras somos, como bien dijo Nancy, las 3 personas que estamos organizando esto. Stephanie lleva a Querétaro. em, Denise lleva Hermosillo y Chihuahua y yo llevo Colima, Guanajuato, Nayarit, Jalisco y estoy apoyando actualmente a Veracruz y Oaxaca. Entonces, si alguien eh, es de esos estados, la asesoría sería con nosotras, ¿vale? Ya por último, recordarles, esta es la quinta sesión, hoy es 23 de octubre, vamos a hablar de los ensayos. Los ensayos son una parte vital de la solicitud de información porque es el único documento donde van a poder hablar ustedes, expresar quiénes son, qué quieren hacer, por qué lo quieren hacer, qué los motiva, entre muchas otras cosas que ahorita nos va a explicar Stephanie. En la siguiente sesión vamos a hablar de los exámenes estandarizados, eh, que por cierto les voy a pasar después. la información porque ya abrimos el curso de GRE para los que tengan interés y vamos a terminar con una sesión de entrevistas, ¿vale? Muy bien, entonces con eso, Denise, por favor síganos en redes sociales si no lo han hecho ya, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, o escríbanos por correo si tienen alguna duda. Y listo. La siguiente es para dar paso a nuestra querida Stephanie Ramírez. Ella es la asesora de Querétaro y nos va a compartir eh, información sobre los ensayos.
Hola a todos, denme un momentito en lo que comparto aquí mi pantalla.
En lo que Stephanie comparte la grabación del todas las grabaciones se están subiendo al canal de YouTube. Falta la última, que fue justo la del 21. Estamos teniendo unos problemas técnicos en el canal de YouTube, entonces esperamos subirlas a finales de la semana. Así que con un poquito de paciencia, pero ahí van a estar todas. Ahora sí está.
Súper. Bueno, espero que puedan abrir mi pantalla y recuerden que la sesión de hoy va a ser en inglés. Entonces, pues vamos a estar empezando. Okay, guys, so before we begin, I'm going to share with you guys the agenda for today's session. We're going to focus on all of the types of essays that are asked of you when you are applying to either a graduate program or a scholarship, okay? So we are going to talk about why essays are important. Next, we are going to discuss all of the different types of essays that are very common in graduate programs and scholarships. Common errors in essays. We are also going to see the U.S. academic writing conventions, and I will lastly give you some guidelines on how to write a strong essay. Part of this information session is an exercise, okay? So we're going to have a very short 10-15 minutes exercise at the end of the session. So please, if you can have with you a pen and paper, and also maybe a Word document like a Google Doc or a Word document to use at the end of the presentation, okay? So first, we are going to begin with essays in scholarship applications and why are they important. So remember, guys, that most of the scholarships that are very popular for graduate programs are going to ask you to submit at least one part of essay in your application. But also, your graduate admission essays that you write to get into universities can also influence what kind of scholarships you are eligible for, especially, for example, merit scholarships that are awarded directly by the universities. And well, something very important is to always read the prompt or the question that the that the application is asking of you so that you can know what type of essay to write, okay? And so that you also know the mission and values of the scholarship that you are applying to. Okay, so why are essays important? Again, remember that when you guys are applying to a scholarship, an external scholarship like Fulbright or maybe the Opportunity Funds Program scholarship, but also to a graduate program, the committee is going to be looking at many different things. So they are going to see your academic performance and grades. They're going to read your letters of recommendation. They will also see your CV, your work experience, and where you have done volunteering. But on top of that, they also want to know if what is your personal story? What is your personal background or achievements? And that is why the essays are very important, because that is where you can share your story, your motivations, and that way they can know who you are as a person beyond scores and resumes, right? Remember that scholarships also are very competitive. So a really good essay can make the difference between applicants, right? The committee can see some applicants standing out among others, depending on what they have written in their essays. So this is your opportunity to highlight your community contribution, how you want to make an impact in your society, and that your mission and your values align with the values and mission of the scholarship as well. So here I have two examples of scholarships that we have talked about frequently during this entire workshop. You guys know of the Opportunity Funds Mexico Scholarship, and this is what they ask, okay? They ask, briefly explain your background, what makes you unique, and why you qualify for this scholarship. And for those who have seen the Fulbright graduate scholarship, this is what they ask for. They require a personal statement and a study objectives essay. Now, I'm going to share in a second what is a personal statement and what is a study objectives essay, okay? Before we continue, it's very important that you guys, the applicants, know who is going to read your essay, okay? So know that your essay is read by the admissions officers, the committee, scholarship committees who are making the decision, and sometimes some faculty members like professors may read these, okay? So for example, if you're applying for a specific research program-specific scholarship or research-specific scholarship, it is likely that in the audience, you will find professors or scholars who are experts in that field. And so that's why it is very important to research the entire scholarship organization or the department of the graduate program, the faculty, so that you are aligning with their mission and their priorities. When you guys are writing, it's also very important to always be specific about your academic interests, your professional goals, and any projects that you are creating that will impact your community directly. Make sure that you are not writing statements that are kind of vague or that they are not really showing why you are a candidate for this program. So make sure that everything that you write about is very clear and specific. And remember, guys, as Mexican students or professionals, it is a strength for us. It can be very important for you guys to write about your cultural context, your cross-cultural experiences, your contributions to your community when you are writing your essay. Okay, we are going to the next part of our presentation, sorry. And here now we are going to talk about the types of essays that scholarships or graduate programs look for, okay? So here are the ones that we are going to see. First one is the personal statement. Second, we are going to see the statement of purpose, then the motivation letter, study objectives essay, and we are going to finish with program specific or supplemental essay. Sometimes they share the same name. So what is a personal statement? This is probably the most common type of essay that you guys are going to see when you are applying to a program, a university program, or maybe to a scholarship. So the personal essay focuses on who you are and what is important to you. Often this type of essay is like a story. It is a narrative kind of essay, and it is the most personal part of your application, okay? So what can you include in this type of essay? Anecdotes about your personal, academic, or professional experiences. You can share your values, what is important to you. And this is also a good opportunity to talk about any challenges or that you have faced and how you overcame these challenges. So again, tie how these experiences, these personal experiences and value connect with the scholarship that you are applying for. The second type of essay is that we are talking about today is the statement of purpose essay. Now, this essay focuses more on what you want to achieve academically and professionally, and how the program you are applying for or the scholarship that you are applying for is going to support that goal. So in this one, you can focus more on your goals, your future goals, and also maybe how you can still talk about past experiences, but it's very goal driven. Okay, so what impact you are going to make. And the key elements for this essay is to talk about your academic background and preparation, any research that you have done, or your career goals, and always talk about why you are a strong fit. When we say strong fit, we mean why your profile as a professional fits with the program and the scholarship. And again, for this kind of essay, it is important to talk about specific interests, like specific researchers, labs, or resources in a specific university. Now, what is the difference between the personal statement and the statement of purpose? Sometimes they are used interchangeably, but really we can say that the personal statement focuses more like on your past and your personal journey, and sometimes it is more about using these engaging anecdotes in your essay, while the statement of purpose is going to focus more like on your future goals and how your academic or career objectives what your academic and career objectives are, and it tends to be more professional rather than personal. But either way, the most important thing about both of these essays is that you are trying to convince the readers, the committee, the scholarship committee, that you are the adequate person for this program or scholarship, right? So that you are trying kind of to sell your image to them. Now we are going to talk about a motivation letter. So this letter is more about explaining why you have an interest in a specific academic program or scholarship. So in this letter, you can introduce yourself, your background, and your future plans. It tends to be a smaller type of letter, typically around 400 to 700 words. And the elements of this is to describe your relevant work experience, highlight your strengths, your skills that you have, certifications, and you can also talk about your future goals and plans briefly and what kind of impact you hope to create. Okay, so this kind of letter tends to be a little bit shorter. The next kind of essay that we're talking about is the study objectives essay. So this essay is kind of you will see throughout this presentation that the essays have similarities, okay? So it doesn't mean that they are different in each kind, right? They have some similarities, small differences, but this one, study objectives, again, like the objective, your goal of studying. Why do you plan to study this? And why is it important for you, for your field, or even for your country to create an impact? So something very important to do in this essay is that you show how your goals align with the scholarship and the scholarship's mission. And again, how your study is going to contribute not only to your personal development, but also how it can impact the society as well. So for the elements that you're going to have in this essay, talk about why you want to study in this area, talk about specialized areas of interest or research, and how your research goals are relevant to this graduate program or this scholarship. And I think we're going to finish with this essay, the program-specific or supplemental essay. This essay tends to be like a second essay. So some universities will ask you for a statement of purpose, and in addition, they ask for a supplemental essay. Okay, so this one tends to be like a second essay that you submit. So these essays ask you to provide additional insight that maybe when you are in your application that you don't see this information. So there are specific questions sometimes made by universities. I have two examples here. The first one is from the University of Washington, and they ask, why do you want to pursue a career in this field, and what steps have you taken to ensure it's a good fit? And the other one is from MIT, and they ask, who are you as a scientist, and what do you hope to accomplish here? Okay, so these are specific prompts given to you by the institution or the university. And again, the goal really in all of these essays is that you demonstrate that you are the best candidate for this program or scholarship, and that the values and mission aligns with them as well. Okay, guys, we're going to move on to the next part. And this is where we are going to talk about some of the do's and don'ts of essays, okay? So what mistakes to avoid, kind of. Now, one of the most common questions is, should I use artificial intelligence to write my essays? Now, it is very noticeable when people use artificial intelligence to write your essays. And sometimes it is more noticeable when perhaps English is not our first language, right? Because you can tell the conversation versus the writing can be very different. And remember, guys, that a lot of these graduate programs or scholarships are going to also ask for an interview. So you want to make sure that maybe your essay is super perfect, and then when you have an interview, you're like, you can't speak, right? So try to be authentic. Don't copy full paragraphs from ChatGPT, or sometimes the artificial intelligence creates its own stories or accomplishments that are not yours, right? And also don't forget that the universities have policies and rules regarding authorship and integrity. So try to use artificial intelligence to support your writing process, but don't let it replace your own personal voice or experiences. So what can you do? Use AI as a tool. Maybe you can use it to brainstorm for ideas, see the structure, explore topics. You can also submit your essay to an artificial intelligence tool and ask it to check the tone, ask for organization, improve the grammar. But first, write the essay and then ask for help, okay? I consider that maybe artificial intelligence is like your, it is like your last tool, okay? There are much better tools. For example, your Education USA advisor can help you also, okay? The next mistake to avoid is repeating your resume or your CV, okay? Sometimes students, they copy their CV and they just list accomplishments, schools, work experience, submit. But remember that some essays are looking for a narrative, like a story, personal engagement. So the committees want to know who is applying, to know you more personally. So they already know your CV, they already have seen this part, so they want to hear more context and reflection in your essay. So what you should do is use your essay to tell a story, what you have learned, your achievements, your goals, and focus maybe on experiences and also concrete examples and details that otherwise cannot be put into your CV. Next mistake to avoid is not having a clear goal or a future impact. Some students will say, well, I don't know why I want to study there. I don't know why I want this scholarship. So that probably will be a bit difficult then, to have a good essay, right? Because the scholarships and the programs, they want to have a clear vision and a clear plan from the candidates. So again, something that we have been repeating, always be very clear and explicit about your goals, use concrete examples, and always connect them back to the scholarship or the program, right? How the funding of the scholarship will help you achieve those goals, for example. Okay, the next mistake to avoid. When students do not mention the study area or the research interests. Sometimes the students don't show that they have researched that specific university, that specific faculty, that specific research that is being done there. So the committees will think, well, then how do your interests align with us if it looks like you have not researched the program, right? That how do you align with our goals? So always, again, something we mentioned at the beginning, always research before you apply for the scholarship, research the faculty, the priorities of the scholarship, and how your goals should connect. A good idea is to research some of the faculty members. Remember that faculty members are researchers, are professors who work in the university, okay? Okay, the next mistake that we want to avoid is not having an effective storytelling. Now, remember that not all of the essays want a story. Some essays, for example, the personal statement asks for like a story. So that means that when you are doing this storytelling, that you're wanting to use this kind of structure, a challenge or experience, followed by an action, a result, a reflection. Okay, try to use almost like you are telling a story because they want to see how you are growing throughout this process, right? Especially if you are talking about challenges. In a second, we will talk more why challenges are very important. So try to include these personal stories, these personal experiences, so that the committee can remember you when they are reviewing your application. They will probably remember your story. So always try to show continuity, how past experiences have affected your current work, and how your current work can affect or extend into the future, into your future goals or future research. Next, using generic ideas, okay? These are called cliches. They are kind of like sentences that are very, very common. I want to make a difference. I would love to study at MIT because MIT is my dream school because I love science. So try to be more specific, right? That is very, very generic, and the committees will not remember you when they read these essays. So again, specific examples, guys, always reflect and show growth in these experiences. For writing, grammar, or clarity, so this is, again, perhaps where artificial intelligence, an advisor, a teacher can help you with this section. Always try to have the best grammar when it comes to writing your essays. It is the foundation of an essay. Maybe you have great ideas, great structure, but your grammar is very poor. And sometimes bad grammar can distract the reader. Maybe the message will not come across as what you want it to. So always have a mentor, an advisor, a native English speaker, a teacher that can read your essay and give you some feedback. And in a few minutes, we're going to talk about topic sentences, but these are when your paragraph has one topic sentence and everything else is connected to this main idea. And again, obviously use a logical flow when you are writing your paragraph. Now, here is where we are talking about challenges. Remember, I told you challenges can be very important, okay? A challenge can be something very personal to each individual has their own unique challenges, and some individuals do not have challenges, right? It is not a necessity. So if you want to share a challenge that you overcame, always include it only if you can show growth, if you can show how there was impact, how you learned something from this experience, describe it clearly, what actions you took to overcome this challenge, how it shaped your personal, academic, and professional growth. If you cannot show any of these things, growth, reflection, what you learned, then it means that this is not a good topic and you shouldn't write about it, okay? Instead, I recommend that you focus on a specific experience. It doesn't have to necessarily be something negative, like a negative challenge. Okay, we are moving on to the next part, and this is where we are going to talk about U.S. academic writing conventions. Now, before we continue, I would like to see if you guys can maybe put in the chat or you can open your microphone and tell me something that is different in writing when writing in Mexico academically versus writing in the US. Can anyone type maybe in the chat, use your microphone? Nike, Olivas, if you want to go ahead, Nike.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Active versus passive voice.
Perfect. Thank you, Nike. In a second, we are going to talk about this. Nike brought up a great point, active versus passive voice. Alejandro says, writing in the States is much more direct. Perfect. Another great answer. Let's talk about both of these things that Alejandro and Nike mentioned. And yes, they are exactly correct. So writing in Mexico, sometimes it is more descriptive. It includes very long, elaborate sentences. It tends to be more formal. They tend to use more complex grammar in Spanish, in very formal language. And something very important here that Nike mentioned, that they use a lot of passive voice. In a second, I will show you an example, but passive voice focuses more on the action on the subject, what is happening to a subject, rather than who is doing the action. And writing in the US is more to the point, it's more clear, it's much shorter. Each sentence tends to have a purpose. It's formal also, but it's more accessible. You can avoid slang, but you can also, it can be more casual. And this is something that is conversational. And this is something that is common in the personal statement where you are talking about like a story, right? And something here that Alejandro mentioned, which is when something is more direct. Yeah, writing in the US is more to the point. And here, what Nike mentioned, now the difference with active voice, writing in the US tends to use active voice. Now you focus more on who is doing the action rather than receiving. And Nancy says the length of sentences. Exactly. Writing in Mexico tends to have really long sentences, and writing in the US tends to have shorter sentences. Okay, so what is passive and active voice? Passive voice is very common here in the use of academic language in Spanish specifically. So here we have this example. A community health project was designed by a team of 5 students, resulting in improved vaccination rates in the local clinic. That is the passive voice, was designed by. Okay, now look at the difference with active voice. I led a team of 5 students to design a community health project which improved vaccination rates in our local clinic. So now you see who is doing the action? Me. I led a team of 5 students. So here you're focusing more on your contributions, your actions, right? And so again, as you can see, the sentence is shorter, right? It is more concise, it is more clear, it's not that long. So try to use this active voice always when you are doing academic writing. Now let's talk about the tone. Should it be personal? Should it be professional? Okay, so you can use various tones. You can be engaging, you can be entertaining, direct, but don't be too engaging, too casual, too conversational, and don't be too direct, too formal, too concise. Okay, you want to avoid extreme. You want to have like a clear balance. Look at the difference between these sentences. One of them, the too casual is too conversational. I'm super into science and this scholarship would be awesome for me, right? It's like a conversation. It's very casual. So now we have something that is too rigid, too formal. I have striven to attain a comprehensive understanding of scientific principles. It almost sounds like it is a bit like a robot, right? So it's too academic. So you want to have the perfect balance that is personal, but also professional. This is very important, again, in essays like a personal statement. My curiosity for science has grown into commitment to renewable energy research, right? It is perfectly balanced. Now we're going to move on to what steps to take to create a powerful essay. And first, what is the preparation process, right? Before you write, I recommend that you make a list of all of these things: challenges, skills, experiences, passions, motivations, career goals, values, personal traits, interests. There's many, many things that you can write about, and that you create a mind map. There are many websites online that you can create an online mind map, but I don't know if you guys are like me, but I like to write in pen and paper and just write everything in a notebook, right? So that you can visualize. Here's an example of a mind map. This one obviously was done on some sort of website, but you can also do this in person, by hand writing. You can see that there are many things that this person was thinking about. What have they done and why is it useful? They're talking about their work experience, their volunteering, hobbies outside of school. They're also talking about motivation. Why this course? They're talking about the reasons of choosing it. And they're also talking about other preparation, extracurricular activities. This is going to be different for each person, right? So you guys can choose what is important to you and what you want to write about. Then you can move on to the structure. How are you going to organize your essay and your ideas? Remember to have a clear thesis, to have your points organized, follow a storytelling structure, and each paragraph should have a main idea or a topic sentence, okay? If in one paragraph you are talking about your work experience, then you shouldn't be talking about your future goals, right? They are two different things. Always remember to keep the word limit in mind. How many words can you write? And again, remember who is going to read your essay, and change or adapt your essay depending on the type of program you're applying to, the type of essay that they're asking of you. When you are writing, also remember to think on how to grab their attention. And in a second, I'm going to explain what is the difference between a personal hook or a direct introduction. They are going to matter depending on your content of your essay. But one of the main elements that all essays have to have is that you connect your goals to the scholarship or the graduate program's mission, okay? Follow this narrative structure. I have been repeating over and over again, narrative structure. Create this flow of events, experience, actions, impact, and what you learned, right? Use clear evidence and examples that show growth, impact, or learning. And how do you finish your essay? You can either refer back to your introduction and restate it one more time, or you can also reinforce why all of this makes you a strong candidate, or you can finally just talk about again why you are a good fit to the mission and values of the scholarship. Now, here are the differences in the personal hook versus direct introduction. Use a personal hook if you are going to say something like a personal story and your goals. This one might be more adequate for something like a personal statement. You can use a direct introduction if you are working maybe like on a like a program specific essay where you're going to emphasize your qualifications or research alignment, okay? So you can see here the language is a little bit different. In the personal hook, it can be conversational, but personal, right? Because you're talking about your personal life and your experiences. And in the direct introduction, you are focusing more on why you want to go to this specific program, and the personal experiences kind of become secondary, right? Okay, so here's where we're going to start with our exercise. We're at a perfect time because we're going to take about 15 minutes. So make sure that you also stand up and you stretch, and then in 15 minutes, we're going to return, okay? So let me explain to you a little bit the exercise. First, we're going to look at this scholarship. Obviously, this scholarship is not real, the Global Leaders Scholarship, but we're going to pretend that this is a real scholarship, and we're going to try to write a paragraph, okay? So make sure that you have either pen and paper or Word document, and let's look at this exercise, okay? So take a few seconds to read it. Okay, the Global Leaders Scholarship supports students who demonstrate leadership, initiative, and a commitment to making a positive impact in their communities. This is the scholarship's goals, and this is their mission, to create impact, positive impact in their communities, okay? Now, this is the prompt. The prompt is the question, right, that they are asking. Write one paragraph describing a personal, academic, or professional experience that demonstrates your leadership or initiative, and shows how you can make a positive impact in your community. So what do I want you to do? I want you to follow these 4 instructions, okay? I want you to brainstorm one specific experience. It can be personal, academic, or professional. And think about when you have taken initiative, right, to show leadership. Secondly, you're going to identify some skills, qualities, or lessons that you gained from this experience, and how this experience prepared you to make a positive impact, perhaps in the future, how you can make a positive impact with this experience. But remember that it has to align with the mission, right? The mission is that it is a positive impact. And number 4, finally, you're going to write a short paragraph, 6 to 8 sentences, where you are creating writing this experience, skills, and potential impact. In a second, I'm going to share with you guys in the chat a Word document. So give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to leave this screen here, and I want you to work 10 to 15 minutes. So it is 6:53. We can return around 7:10 to see a little bit what are our essays, if anyone would like to share their short, sorry, not an essay, their short paragraph. But I'm leaving this checklist here. I think that can really help you to make sure that you have all of these points in your essay, okay? So if you guys would like to take these 15 minutes to write, 7:10, we are going to return, okay? Let me share with you guys in the chat. One moment. Let me share the text and then I will share the screen one more time.